You and I are ordinary people. You can look my name up in Wikipedia and you won't find an article, and I probably won't find one on you either. We are somewhat unremarkable. In fact, go 1,000 miles from your home and go to a large city and hang out in a big crowd, and chances are nobody is going to recognize you. And no one's going to recognize me either, for that matter. But today's Bible passage, Isaiah 53, 1 and 2, talks about the suffering servant. And there's 2 or 3 places here in the book of Isaiah that are called the servant songs. And the early Christians looked back at these servant songs, which were written hundreds of years before the life of Jesus, as predicting him or foreshadowing him or describing what Jesus would be like. And if you were to look at Psalm 22 and the servant songs, you might be amazed at how much Jesus' life was patterned after these ancient texts. And one of the things about the servant songs is it talks about this servant being unremarkable. In other words, if Jesus were to dress in modern clothing with a modern haircut and speak accent-free English in North America, nobody would recognize him as anything special. And that might be offensive to our ears, but it's probably the truth. God chose the normal and the ordinary. Jesus in the flesh was an ordinary man. Jesus, of course, in the spirit was anything but ordinary. But his physical appearance did not attract enough attention for anyone in the 4 Gospels to spend any time at all describing what he looked like. And think about that. In other words, there was nothing much to write about. And so the pictures you've seen of Jesus, of having long hair and a beard, who knows? We don't really know. Those were made up a lot later. Well, the truth is, I don't really believe in this whole gifted idea for children. And if you've got a gifted kid, please forgive me. But when it comes right down to it, I think all normal people are very gifted. I think I'm gifted. I think you're gifted. I think human beings are an absolute miracle of creation. I just find the human mind fascinating. I could take you back to your 3rd grade classroom and you would recognize the paint, the hooks on which to hang your coats, the tiles in the ceiling. I spent a lot of time looking at the tiles in the ceiling because I was kind of bored. But we would recognize all that because your mind still stores it after all this time in perfect clarity. And that's just remarkable. And the creative ability of all human beings, I think all human beings are just incredibly intelligent. And the difference between them is so minimal. Between an Einstein and a bricklayer, the difference isn't much. And if you talk to anyone long enough, you find out what he or she is good at. You realize we're all gifted. And all being gifted, even us normal folks, it is just real comforting to know that the Lord works through normal people. Jesus chose some normal people to be his disciples, and the men and the women who followed him were anything but remarkable. In fact, a lot of them were kind of flaky and continued to get the story wrong and continued to misunderstand Jesus over and over and over. Yet Jesus believed in them and trusted them to carry on his ministry because he knew that within every person is a remarkable promise and a remarkable potential. You have it in you, I have it in me. With the Lord's help, all things are possible. That's the good news for today, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.